All right. So stick around for the show if you're interested in hearing about today's topics. We're going to be talking about MGTOW. We're going to be talking about Drizzle Drizzle. We're going to be talking about um, body count, fourth wave, fourth wave, or is it fifth wave feminism? We're going to be talking about hitting the wall. We're going to be talking about all these issues men are facing. We're going to be talking about there's one other issue I was going to throw in there. OnlyFans. We're going to talk about some percentages that we see. And this is, I believe this is supposed to be Men's Health Month. So we're going to talk about some of the things that men are dealing with because men are kind of fed up with being the world's punching bag. We're tired of being, men are tired of being feminism's punching bag. When I first got involved with being on line, creating a brand, creating content, doing live streams, starting up the Chaos Cast, because it all started on Clapper. I was a naive person when it came to the internet. I mean, I knew there was danger out there. I was always, I knew of certain things, but I hadn't had a lot of interaction with a lot of people, around the world, people that were involved in the more seedy aspects of the internet. And I began to meet a lot of people. I began to realize there's a lot of normal people out there that are involved in things. I met people from BDSM. I met people from, I met OnlyFans people that actually I didn't meet them through their content because I do not view that content. I met them as just regular commenters on live streams. In fact, one of my first supporters on the Clapper app where I started. It's kind of like adult, TikTok. But good thing to go check out if in case things do go down with the TikTok app. Where's one of my main streaming platforms. But yeah, go follow me there. That's where I started. I got almost 200,000 followers there. Um, I was one of the OG founding members. Not but yeah, I was there in the beginning. But anyways, my first follower was an OnlyFans. I didn't know it. She was a cool chick. Just come in. We were all like little emo gun nerds. We were all into like sci-fi. We were all into comic books. We all talked about guns, and I talked about survival. She just kind of come in. We'd have conversations in the comments during other people's lives. She would come into my lives. We would come in my friend Infamous Panda's live, and he's this cool dude. You can't beat him. Oh, Infamous Panda. I don't make a lot of content anymore. I think he just kind of got burned out on the whole thing. But she, starts supporting me. And then I slowly, I just kind of flip through people that support me's channels and I slowly realized she's OnlyFans. Now, she never pushed that, towards me. She knew I was a Christian. She knew that I didn't view those things. And she didn't, she was never out of the way. She's always, like a normal person when we had conversations or when we had collaborations as creators, just normal content. So, yeah, that whole awkward thing there. We're just talking about that. But no, like, and I will say this in general, OnlyFans like are just like out there. You got a lot of OnlyFans that are out there just they're trying like they blow your DMs up. I knew what they were at that time, and because like you can't have social media without an OnlyFans trying to sell you content. If you're a man, you're going to get these DMs from random people, and they're always, "Hey, do you buy content?" You know, like, no, I don't. I paid for a wife, like not literally paid for, but I've been married all these years. I put all this money and invested it into a marriage. I mean, those titties are free. I'm not paying to see yours. And but if you have spent any time on the internet and you're a man, this it's like they're hunting for you to spend your money on that. And one of the weird things you find out, one of the weird statistics you find out now, I think like they have done the studies, like 90% of the men who consume OnlyFans content is married men. And when men were questioned about the reason why they would do this, having a spouse, and they were talking about, well, we've been married all these years. I don't want to, I've got all this invested in the marriage. I don't want to, destroy my marriage. I don't want to cheat on my wife. So they just, there's it's kind of a sexless marriage. The wife's burned out. There's all these reasons. The wife's more focused on the kids. The wife's focused on her career. All these things, and so it's kind of like we all know this. A lot of women can do, without it more than men, men have a drive. That in the olden days, the women used to prepare the young girls for marriage. Say, if you don't give it to him, because Granny would talk about this. Granny Bunch, we have conversations. Maybe you've seen some of her clips about the olden days. She said, "Well, they said you better give it to him, or he'll go get it somewhere else. And if you want to keep your husband home, taking care of you and them kids, you might as well give him what he wants." And she said, "So you did that." That's a great bunch. She don't mince words. She just told you the truth. And that's what was taught to young girls. These days it's all about having a career. It's about, finding yourself, all these things. And so it's like easy to put your husband, your spouse on the back burner. So these men said this is why they went into these situations. They didn't want to be paying alimony. They didn't want to be paying child support. They didn't want to be, unable to see their children. So they stayed with these women in this sexual relationship, and they consumed this content to kind of alleviate that, drive, because we all, as men, we all have that drive. But that's the things, I would say when I am a Christian minister, and I discovered a lot of things when I went online, when I started making viral videos, when I started doing live streams, and again, when I started meeting people. There are certain terms when you talk to people in the church, they do not even realize these issues are out there. They do not realize what these terms mean. They don't even know these things are possible, because you have this boomer class, the ever boomer class that are running most institutions, especially the churches. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm saying they're very, they're adversive against technology. They're not interested, they feel like it's evil, and there's some evil things. And when you try to talk about, this is what's going on, they just, like, it blows their mind. They think you're making things up. And one of the things that I'm trying to do with this podcast, it's part of my ministry. I'm trying to help people grow in their levels of preparedness, but at the same time, I'm trying to address issues that, we as normal people are facing, that men are facing, young men, older men. And this is one of those things that's out there. We've had this feminism movement that has called, for women to enter the workplace. So the woman is no longer at home taking care of the children and the husband. She's at work, subject to her boss, usually a man, and placating his needs instead of her family's needs. So that's what happens. Some women don't even have families at all, and they have decided to go the route of the career woman. And I talked about this in the stewardship thing. There is this thing happening. Women are putting off marriage until they have established themselves, till they have a career. But what they're finding now in this day and age, when you're in your 30s, you've established yourself, you're ready to settle down. This is the things that have been taught. These are the things that have been pushed. I can't tell you how many friends waited till after college to get married. I got married. My wife was like just right there at the end of high school. We got married. We've had our kids. I got a 16-year-old. I'm almost 40. So we've about raised our kids. We'll have them raised out. We'll have our life over with. These people will be raising teenagers in their 60s. I think some of them, I can't believe it. But this was what we were told. Millennials were told. This is what Gen X was told. This is what you need to do. This is what successful women need to do in this new modern world. And then these women get to 30, and there's no, that Prince Charming is not there. And now they're berating men because men are dating these younger women. They're getting in their 30s. They're established. They've invested in themselves. They've built, a career, and they're ready to settle down too. It's kind of, both sides are playing this game now, this hookup culture, till they're in their 30s. They both got high body counts. But this guy that's in his 30s is, most times out of none, is settling down with younger women that are ready to settle down, that are not worried about these same things. They're settling down, but they're being berated for it, and especially by these women in their 30s that are they done everything modern feminism told them that they needed to do. Um, you always got some nut job in the comments. But anyways, and I'm going to explain something to you. If you ever get involved on social media, you're going to deal with trolls from like Pakistan, political bot trolls, ghost ghost accounts, people that come in to say things because they're just trying to incite problems. But anyways, it says without any context of what I've said, this guy Jacob Jingleheimer with no profile pic says, "What kind of wacky flock of insecure men follow you, Pastor?" And I've not even got into anything. But as we get going, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna take that problem. We're gonna nip that problem in the bud because we don't need that garbage. But as we go forward, and again, that's what I'm talking about. That what kind of insecure men are being berated because they're insecure because they don't want to date somebody that is got a career. They don't want to marry someone that's the same age as them. The men are being berated for this. This is, we're seeing this mental health issue that with men. Uh, Men are thrown on the back where basically we're told we have to accept whatever is thrown at us by society. These modern women, these working women, they're to do whatever they want to us, and we're wrong. And we've seen that we never seen that more prevalent than in the hashtag Me Too movement. I touched on this um, on Sunday's podcast with Me Too. There were some clear issues that needed to be brought to the forefront, but then there were some things that were brought to the forefront during that where there were clear injustices being done against men when they had done nothing wrong. These young ladies just wanted to be part of the movement, and later on it was found out they had berated these men, they had lied on these men, and it was just to be part of it. Then it was made out that just they had changed their minds, and the guy kept going. All kinds of things were thrown out, and there was men that were thrown under the bus, and then it was later on after all the damage had been done, it had come back at them. But we're told, we're supposed to suck it up when we get into our 30s, and you have this woman. She got 3 or 4 kids. You're supposed to suck it up, take care of those 3 children, and that's it. And a lot of men are rebelling against this. I'm not going to say anything against a man that decides to help take care of some children. He decides to love those children if that's what you decide to do. But there's no reason a man should be berated because he does not want to enter into a relationship where he has no control and no discipline in that situation. I know a man that entered into that situation and it did not do him well. He ended up being done wrong. He ended up being done, and he's a good dude. And this is one of the best guys you could ever meet. Got in that situation, I feel like they got mistreated. And I see it happening more and more. I talk to men on a daily basis, and it's like they're in these situations with spouses, girlfriends, that are deciding they just up want to leave them, because of this, that, and another, and they're going to weaponize the children against them. And the courts are heavily in favor of these things. They allow it. They've allowed it to go on for years. I know men that haven't seen their children in years, hardworking men that were taking care of their wives or a girlfriend that they had children with, and they left to pursue someone else. I watched this happen with family. The child was taken into drug houses by the mother, and the man had no understanding, had no control of what was happening. I watched another one, a close friend have a child, couldn't even get a DNA test because the lady took the kid and ran off. We see these things happening, and a lot of people, and like I said, a lot of our modern church, we see some of these things, but we don't realize all of them are there. That's what this is here to kind of educate you about today. Um, the fourth wave feminism is basically, it's like stomp men in the mud. We're better than you. It's not, let's have rights. My grandmother is what you would say the epitome of feminism was promoted to be. She worked hard. She raised my father and my uncles. She worked hard jobs like a man. She wasn't trying to outdo anybody. She just had to do that, take care of my dad and my uncles because she was the only one there. I mean, and she was well respected by those men. So that was to me is what true, if you could say feminine equality is. My grandmother is the epitome of that. But as we look at it, we see these things now that are developing. And the reason I brought up feminism, the reason I brought up, this hitting the wall and this basically battle of the sexes, The reason I'm bringing these things up is because we're seeing new developments. We're seeing certain things that are happening. Now, if you don't know what MGTOW is, MGTOW, maybe you've seen it on YouTube. Maybe you've seen it on Facebook. It's called Men Going Their Own Way. So, because of the huge liability entering into a relationship with a woman is these days, young men are choosing to go their own way. They're choosing not to marry. They're choosing not to even date. They're they're choosing in a lot of cases to not even have sexual relationships with women. And there are these young women, they're coming out of college, they're making good money, they're building these careers. And if they're not marrying a young lady in their 30s, they're not marrying at all. They've done built their life. These men are like, I'm not going to put my whole life, career, and everything I've built on the line because they feel like everything could be taken from them in a minute by just a woman they're gonna or a spouse that they're gonna involve in their life could just take it all in a minute. So they're choosing not to marry, and you're seeing a lot of young ladies that they're starting to realize this. Now there is a lot of this stuff on YouTube. You can look it up if you've never heard of it before. I know a lot of the local people are going to see this podcast on Facebook. Here, I'm in Northeast Alabama, and you may have never heard of MGTOW. You may have never heard of men going their own way. Maybe some of these ideas were stuff that was kind of thrown around the campfire, at the bar, at church, while you was hanging out over at your buddy's house working on an engine. But I'm gonna say this, and I said it in the last podcast. I understand why these men think the way they do. When you listen to it and you look at the modern day and age, the modern man, the relationship he's told that he should just accept is in a lot of cases women that have been with all kinds of men other than him, and they just kind of finally decide to settle with him. They're told if in not just that case, this young lady, they have 3 or 4 kids, they need to take care of those children or they're not a man. They're not a man, and they're told to accept this. Um, they're told that when that woman leaves, it's that woman's right to take these things from him because he owes it to them. And I've seen women that I literally feel like this, and I'm not just railing on women. I said this is why men are coming to this decision and stopping this. If you don't realize this is a thing, this is a thing. And we're seeing a lot of young women now. They're getting on social media and they're like, why I make good money, I'm not ugly. Why can't I find someone to settle down with? Why can't I find a husband? And a lot of men, and I'm telling you this, whether you like what I'm saying, whether you understand what I'm saying, whether you're looking at this and with through emotional lens and you're thinking you're just a terrible person. No, this is the reality of things. If you're wondering why the dating pool is so stagnant, if you're wondering why you can't find that potential spouse, you can't maybe even find a boyfriend, is because of things like this that are going on, because modern feminism and the way that the world has been constructed now towards men, they feel like it's a liability. You're even seeing now with women, you're seeing the trad wife movement. St. Williams was one of the big ones that just kind of blew up on the scene here last year. She looked like a 1940s Barbie doll. Her husband looked pretty happy. She was at home cooking. She was dressing like somebody from the 50s and whatnot. And she had been a feminist, and she realized she was a bodybuilder. I mean, like, she was stout, and she had bought into all that. And she says she had changed her mind because she wanted a traditional relationship, and men are seeking a traditional relationship. They're not seeking feminist strong women. He woman, hear her roar. They're not there's this big thing that's happening now. If you've noticed with Marvel, they call it the MCU. um, and a lot of the base for comic books, a lot of your sci-fi is in men. video games are in men. And we've seen women enter into this space, and you've seen Gamergate, basically, Comic Gate. These things started up in retaliation to that. And they've actually, these young men have come. Dang, the cat jumped on me and scared me. Tater is here. Tater's like, I have got to come in. Tater's a cat we rescued off the side of the road. You can go watch that video. Tater will climb up your daggum leg and make you pay attention to. I think it's a him or a her. I don't know. I hadn't checked if the kid's supposed to. I just call it Tater. Tater will make you pay attention to him. But moving on through this, cat scared the crap out of me. But these young men have effectively mobilized and almost brought Disney to its knees. You had Rachel Zegler. She was spouting off a lot of crazy, insane feminist stuff with the new Snow White movie. She actually has lost her job now. It's got that bad. You've seen a lot of the things that were going on with the I think Fallout's had a big issue, that new show Fallout, but you've seen a lot of the She-Hulk, the female superheroes, Captain Marvel, the Marvels. You've seen a lot of that is basically tanked and lost tons of money. You've seen the new Indiana Jones, where they were gonna basically, they just kind of were pushing old Indiana Jones out the side, off to the side. This new female lead was coming in to take over, and that bombed. So you've seen, young men are getting fed up with that kind of just being pushed to the side. The things that, we're interested in don't matter anymore. We're going to shove this in your face, and you got to take it because you have done all these terrible things to women. Even though a lot of these young men were probably raised by single moms, a lot of these young men have never really done anything. Some of them had female bosses. I can say I have grown up. I've had a lot of female bosses. I had a lot of female trainers in the factory setting. One of my best bosses was a woman, Gwen Davis. I call her Mama Gwen. She taught me a lot of stuff. She took care of me and trained me when I was working in Chattanooga. But a lot of these men have had a lot of female influence. They don't hate women. They're just sick of being, told they don't matter. And you're seeing things like MGTOW come out. You're seeing Drizzle. Now you're seeing Drizzle Drizzle. Drizzle Drizzle is the most, I say it's the most hilarious thing that's come out of this. Now, one of the things we've seen is these young ladies being taken to dinner by a young man and telling that, I can't believe I got dressed up to go. There's the famous video that was out recently. The young lady says, I got all dressed up. You're going to take me to the Cheesecake Factory. Now, I'm going to say this, my wife would probably love to go to the Cheesecake Factory. My wife likes to get picnic lunches and go down by the lake. My wife likes to go to Chinese. My wife likes to get some Mexican. Sometimes my wife, I like this about my wife. She don't want to go spend no money. We can eat what we got at the house and watch a movie, and that's great. Sometimes she's like, "Hey, we eating a sandwich. We're going on vacation." She says, "Let's get a sandwich." I like that about my wife. She's not out just blowing all her money. But the drizzle drizzle thing, these young men are starting to realize their worth. Now you got to understand, this is the thing about men that a lot of feminists ignore. Men predominantly run. I mean, if men were to be gone, completely taken out of the mix, society would collapse as a whole within probably a week. Men predominantly run the industries, the infrastructure that operates society. Men predominantly, are predominant in transportation. Men are predominant in the military. Men are predominant in the factory working setting. Men are predominant in police and in law enforcement. Men are predominant in trash collecting. I mean, all these industries. I'm not saying women can't do it. Women do, and I commend the women that get in there and, like my grandmother, and hang with the guys and doing these things. But a lot of women want to just do the fun stuff. They're quick to spout feminism, and then they go straight into they want to be boss babes. And hey, that's great. If you're good at it, that's great. I've had some good bosses, like I said, that were women. Miss Gwen. I've got my friend Carol. She was my boss. We still friends. We had Miss Buffy at one time. She was pretty cool. Donna's passed away. Donna was my boss at my first job. Donna Payne. She was one of the nicest ladies I ever met. One of the best, one of them good bosses. I had my boss Stacy. Stacy may even see this. Her husband Josh follows me on here. They were my first, bosses at Sonic. Um, they're still good friends. So I'm not against women working, but I'm saying a lot of women, predominantly gravitate towards um, the collegiate and education roles, the management roles. If men were taken out of society as a whole, it would collapse within a week because men are feeling these things and women are not going to be, they're not looking to be trash collectors. They're not looking to, just go straight into factory work. I've seen young ladies come in and work. It takes a pretty stout woman to go work some factory work. A pretty, you know, I guess you'd say a woman with some gumption to go work it. And I'm gonna tell you, hey, them women I worked with, some of them, they some tough old women, and they'll let you know real quick, and they'll set you straight, kind of like your mama would. But then there's some young ladies that's coming there, and this is not for me. Dang it! Oh, Tater climbed. This is what I dealt with Tater. When I found Tater on the side of the road, and I think we found Tater's original owner, said that Tater would climb up in her car, and she thinks it got slung out on the side of the road. So that's just a little Tater update in the middle of our podcast because Tater just could not be ignored. But you know, we're seeing Drizzle Drizzle. Getting back to that point, I'm gonna sit you down here, Tater. You might see Tater climbing up the curtain. But getting back to that Drizzle Drizzle, you're seeing these men that are realizing their worth. You're seeing these women that they want all of this, and just on a date. And now you're seeing these, you see these women that have made these social media posts. Well, I deserve this. You're going to do this on a first date. There was one that was shown of this woman that says, uh, if you're going to date me, you better have a lot of money because me and my kids love fried chicken. And she named off all this stuff. She had a video with, and it was like one of the most cringe things you've ever seen. And I'm like, oh Lord, gotta love a tall, strong woman. Oh, I don't like tall. I'm not into no woman that's taller than me. My wife's shorter than me. She says she don't want to be a man that's smaller than her. So I don't know if you like tall, strong women, and it might be your thing. But if that's a woman saying that, I mean, that's just it don't really count unless you're into chicks, and then I guess that does count. But these men are now they're getting on. They're saying, "What do you bring into the table?" And this young lady may not have a job. This young lady just may all she has is her looks. And that's what Drizzle Drizzle is. These guys are turning it around. What are you bringing to the table that makes me want to be with you? That makes me want to take you out? And a lot of young men are starting to latch on to this. They're starting to look at that. You're seeing these young men. They all of a sudden they come on the radar of that hot chick from high school, and she's in her late 20s, early 30s. After she's been with all these other dudes, she's finally decided, I'm gonna settle down with this guy because he's got a good job. This guy's starting to think, well, I don't know about that. I don't see, and I said this. See, Tater ain't going to be ignored. Um, I said this in other days' podcast. There's no way I would ever want to enter into this world's dating atmosphere at this time. I would not. I've seen again. This is coming from seeing these people out in the open, out in the wild of social media. The OnlyFans, the boss babe chicks, the feminists, all this stuff, and I've seen this. I'm glad I'm married. I'm glad I found my wife. I'm glad I found that someone. We might get mad at each other sometimes, but we're gonna get over it. We're gonna get over it. I wouldn't. I feel sorry for women that are in this dating atmosphere because a lot of these young men that are in the MGTOW movement that are or that are taking this thing, and I talk to these. You'll find them in most random places, and it's becoming more prevalent in young men. Like I said, we're sitting around the campfire, and this stuff starts coming up, and this dude's like he knows all the key talking points. I'm like MGTOW. Yeah, you've been in it because I've seen these. They pop up on your feed. If one pops up and you watch it, the next one pops up. I feel sorry for women in this thing because these young men are picking this mentality up like crazy. they're turning down dating women that have children. They're turning down dating women that are over 30. They're getting all this, and then the ones that you know that can't even get a woman, any kind of woman. How do I say it? The they put these ratings, level 10 woman, level 6 woman, a woman that was a 10 in her 20s is no longer a 10 in her 30s. In her mind, she might be. And then you got these level 5 and 6 guys that this woman finally settles for. This again, this is the MGTOW talking points and mentality, and it makes a lot of sense. This chick that was hot in high school that would have never paid you no attention, she's finally, she finally settles for this guy because she can't get those top level guys. They're marrying the 20-year-olds. Okay. So this young guy, he could get that girl that was the hot girl in high school. He's like, he's not even getting into that situation anymore. He's not even deciding to get married at that point. He has a chance with this girl, this beautiful girl. There's too much there for him. And he's deciding not to. Where is he turning? He's turning to online porn. He's turning to OnlyFans. He's turning to the internet, and he's going his own way. These are the things that are happening. I'm not saying I support it. I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. I'm saying this is what's happening. And if you didn't know, we're telling you, we're educating you right now here on the Chaos Cast. These are the things, these are the telltale signs of our society, the chaos that's beginning in our society. Young men are not marrying anymore. They're going their own way. Yes, there is a huge supply of young women with high body counts, with children, a lot of children. They're getting to where they can't get married anymore. They're getting to where young men won't settle for that because why should I spend my money on these other men's children? Again, I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you if you're taking care of another man's children. Uh, I commend you for it. But these young men are deciding not to do this. And how is that affecting our society? Well, you give it another decade of that happening, you're going to have a lot of women that are not able to get married. They're going to be lonely. They're not going to have anybody. Maybe they're not lonely. But eventually, you're not going to have people getting married and having kids. You're not going to have a lot of fathers in the home. You're going to have a lot of fatherless homes. And eventually, those children, when they grow up, if they get married, it's all about that smaller population. And that's the problem that's we're seeing in a lot of developed worlds. We're seeing it in China, we're seeing it in Russia, we're seeing it in America. Maybe I'm not saying this, maybe I'm not presenting this the right way, but we're just talking about it. So, hopefully you'll get something out of this. But what it is we are seeing these developed nations, Russia, China, America, we're all struggling with graying populations. Since COVID had, the whole pandemic happened, you've seen a whole lot of boomers, they retired. So we're seeing it in the workforce. There's already been people having less kids. So that's making the working pool smaller. The baby boomers was a huge generation. Now they're retiring, and our social security systems, our retirement systems, are not based on um, the income that they made. The social security system is based on the income that's coming in. So you automatically have a smaller population to run the infrastructure, a smaller population to pay for the retirement of the elders. Some of these boomers, the only retirement they're going to have is their social security. And you can't live off that with this inflation right now. We're seeing jobs across the board that can't fill positions. Some of that's because these young people don't want these jobs. Some of it's because there's just not enough people, and the knowledge is being lost exponentially as these people retire. The boomers are in their 60s and 70s, 80s now. They're retiring. They're done. Gen X, they're filling that gap. There's not enough of them because that's where it started. Having less kids, having one or two kids per family, and so imagine that problem just blown out of proportion. You're having less kids because men are just not marrying, men are not having kids, they're not even having sex anymore. I think it was with Gen Z. There's the. I mean, it's a good thing to me. The levels of abstinence are growing. Like I think it's like 40 or 50% because these young men are seeing these things and they're like, I don't want to get in that kind of mess. I don't want to be in that kind of mess. Or they've seen it with their parents and they don't want to be in that problem that they've seen their parents have. So we're seeing this happen. How is that causing chaos? You can't run this country without people. It takes people to run the infrastructure. Like I said, a majority of men run the infrastructure, the base jobs that are needed. Police. I think we need to understand this. If there were not men, that if you think you are a strong, independent woman, here's the thing: without security and safety, that is predominantly run by men, you would be more in danger because there wouldn't be less police. And I'm not saying I'm not trying to say bad or good. I'm saying these are facts. Men hold, men hold a monopoly on physical force. We're built physically stronger. That's why I think the thing that displayed that the most was when trans women, biological males that transitioned into females started entering into female sports. And we're seeing a mediocre MMA fighter go in and take a top ranked female MMA fighter. And I think they just waylaid them in seconds. We're seeing them set new records in the sporting industry, in the female sporting industry, because the male body's built different. This glamorized hoax that they pushed in Supergirl, Captain Marvel, of you're gonna learn some Krav Maga and you're gonna just flip this guy over your head. Some women can do that, but I'm gonna say it's the top percentage of women that can do that. Men hold that monopoly on force. So if you don't have men around to run the police force, as we're continually seeing more and more men are not wanting to enter the police force anymore. So these police forces are severely diminished. So men are not wanting to enter. Men are not wanting to enter the military right now. We're seeing recruiting. We're seeing the recruiting numbers is just in the tank. You don't have that security that's provided in a polite modern society. Well, if men hold monopoly on force and they're not going into these, well, you're going to have these ones that do go into the seedier side, the criminal side of it, and they hold that monopoly, and you don't have that protection anymore. You're no longer strong and independent. You're fighting for your life. That's the true facts of the matter. We've created a society. Men built and created a society for our wives, for our daughters, for our mothers, so that they could be safe in this modern world. And predominantly, you're seeing that across the board. But then as this modern fourth wave feminism come in, it's not just trying to get equal rights. It's not just trying to get a place on the stage. It's trying to basically dominate and stomp men and tell them how terrible they are. You're seeing men begin to back up. You're going to start seeing really, really bad results. We're seeing the beginning results. MGTOW is just the beginning. Drizzle Drizzle is just the beginning. What do you bring to the table? See, they're starting to figure this thing out. And as things begin to get worse, you're going to see other movements that are just completely, and we're seeing the telltale signs of those things. We're seeing certain things that are starting to bubble up because it's like a pendulum. It goes from one side to the next. It gets worse and worse and worse. Me Too was where it went really up. Now you're starting to see Drizzle Drizzle, MGTOW and Drizzle Drizzle. We ain't seen the worst yet. We'll see something. It go back that way. Feminism will do something crazy. It'll get even worse, or it's just going to collapse. Hopefully, it'll collapse before then, and we'll be able to build something better again. Rescue some of society. Every great empire that collapses, there's at least some kind of large part of it that remains with order. I hope I'm there. I hope my wife's there. I hope my mother's there. I hope my cousins are there. I hope my aunts are there. I hope my great granddaughters are in that part, because I don't want them to be in that collapsed society that's created by this insanity that we're seeing now. This new age thinking, because it's usually that's what you see. You see sexual promiscuity. You see the feminization of men, and this society begins to collapse. I mean, you look at like Greece. You look at like you had this one area. You start seeing these smaller, scrawnier, more feminine looking men, and you did have that other side. You had the Spartans over here. but you begin to start seeing, just this feminization of men. And we've seen that try to be pushed on young men, and they're rejecting it. Some of them are taking it up. They call them beta males. They call them soy boys. Some of them are a lot more starting to reject it. We're seeing the telltale signs of a collapsing society. We're seeing if young men are not willing to get married and have children anymore, you're going to have a smaller population. Smaller population means you don't have as big of an infrastructure to draw from, or to, you don't have as many to enforce the law. You don't have as many to protect the country. You don't have as many to manufacture goods. You don't have as many to produce food and farm. Maybe automation will save you, but it's looking more and more. Here's the thing about automation. Here's the thing about AI. What it's looking more and more like is it's going to begin to replace female dominated workplace jobs. I should have said it fancier, but it's basically going to start replacing a lot of college educated women. It's going to replace a lot of college educated men. Don't get me wrong, but that woman that chose that route, she's going to get her education. She's going to be independent. She's got a good job. She's making good money. She doesn't need a husband. She doesn't need children. She's working. She's got a career. She's married to her career. Maybe she's working as some kind of filing clerk. Maybe she's working as a secretary. Maybe she's a receptionist. She's working in an office. That's what AI is fixing to take out. I mean, a lot of people are scared. Hollywood's scared. Hollywood has always, it's always had the female side of it. I would say they've probably exploited women worse than any other, part of the, any other industry. So that's why you always see things like Me Too bubble up more there, because they're just mad because of how they got treated. But Hollywood's scared of it. That's what a lot of your protests were. The writer strikes, SAG strikes. They were wanting to basically, get assurances that their jobs were going to be okay, because AI can replace the graphic artist. AI can replace voice actors now. AI can replace actual actors with computer generated, um, pictures. You say, well, it's not there yet. It won't be long before it is. Because trust me, I use a lot of these AI things with my social media brand. And what we're seeing, we got BR Coley. This is satire, right? No, if no, it's a joke. We got us another troll. We got a block. No, this ain't satire. This is reality. Block the account. Confirm. All right. So, anyways, this is the thing you've got to look at. AI is going to replace a lot of people, but it's going to replace a lot of mid-level skilled jobs, and that is where you see a predominant amount of women working. They're in the office jobs, they're in the teaching positions, they're in these positions, and what we're going to see is AI is going to take care of those mundane jobs where you're sitting at a computer, you're typing all day long. A lot of management jobs are going to get replaced by AI, because AI is going to be, analyzing this, analyzing that. It's going to be writing up scripts. It's going to be doing all these things. And one of the things that I've been seeing talked about a lot lately, and we've seen the guy that came on Joe Rogan that was talking about this. Uh, he said that he was saying that you're going to actually see a lot of management. He was admitting this AI is going to replace a lot of these people, and you see women hold that statistically more college educated, more women um, graduate with degrees than men. I believe it is now, and so you're going to have, I'm not saying all women are going to lose their jobs because of AI. I'm going to say there's going to be that certain level that can be replaced by AI very quickly, very soon, within the next 10 years. I mean, these are the projections, and no longer they're not going to be able to find jobs except in these environments like factory work, infrastructure. Are they going to take them? Are they going to want them? Or are they going to be in their 30s? Have they hit the wall and they're going to realize, oh crap, I don't got nothing and nobody, and I can't find nothing but these jobs right here. So we're starting to see a lot of young women that they don't want to work. They're saying, my wife and a lady at church was talking the other day. They said, whoever came up with this idea of women having to go to work, we wish we could find them and knock them in the heads. My wife would love to be a stay-at-home mom. There are a lot of young ladies that are coming into adulthood, and they want that lifestyle of staying at home. They want that lifestyle of staying at home. But right now, there's a lot of young men that don't want to provide it. They don't want to provide it anymore because of the liabilities of what can be taken from them, of what they can lose, of what they'll have to put in just to get a certain amount of what they want out of a relationship. That's kind of where we're at right now. It's kind of like a big mess. Um, these things are the things we don't want to talk about, but like I said the other day, a lot of this is a result of bad stewardship on both sides. Whenever you're seeing bad results in a society, you're seeing bad stewardship. You're seeing somebody was being a bad steward. Um, somebody was not doing what they were supposed to do. Somebody says Spartans were gay. They were predominantly trained. When you study into it, the older soldier, the older soldiers, they got their relief off the younger soldiers. So a lot of them just, basically trained into a homosexual lifestyle. And then when they had to go get married, they had to be, they weren't used to that. They had to be basically prepared for that lifestyle. Tater just keeps climbing up my freaking britches. But we got another one. Yeah. See, when you do these things, when you talk about things like this, you're definitely going to have a lot of trolls come in. You're definitely going to have a lot of trolls that are going to come in because they ain't going to like it. They ain't going to like you talking about this type of stuff. This is not what you have been trained to talk about all these years. This is not what you've been brainwashed to believe all these years. What we're seeing is a direct result of all the stupid, idiotic things that people were talked into over the last, I'd say, the last 50 or 60 years. You look at it, women were told to go into the workplace, get a job. You deserve this. What it basically was the Rockefellers, John Rockefeller, basically he knew he would make a whole bunch of money if all the women got into the workforce because it was going to double the workforce. It was going to double the economy because all of a sudden, you got double the workforce, the men and the women. So, in all their infinite tomfoolery, they realized, hey, we're going to make a bunch of money if we trick these women into going to work. And a lot of them bought into it and did it. I will say a majority of them, as a whole, we've seen a lot of women didn't want that to take place because they didn't want to get drafted. They didn't want to have to be made to have to go to war. And now we're actually seeing that's on the table. They're talking about, making women file for selective services. And we watched on the Whatever podcast the other day, and they were talking to feminists, self-proclaimed feminists. They claimed to be feminists, but they said they did not feel like they should have to be, they didn't want to be part of the draft. They didn't feel like they should be drafted. And here's the thing, young men don't have a choice in that. They have to be drafted to be able to vote. You'll go to prison if you don't sign up. If you dodge the draft, you're going to go to jail. They don't like that. They could face the same thing, but they're feminists. It should be equal, right? The thing we're seeing is there is no equality right now. Men are running things in the background, and a lot of them want to just tell us what to do and have these fun jobs. They don't want to go be trash keepers. They don't want to go work the factory jobs. They don't want to go work the night shifts and the swing shifts. They want to go to college, get an education, be a boss babe, and run things. And not all of them are like that. Not all women are like that. Not all women bosses are like that. But we are seeing that happen, and you see this mentality and this attitude. I don't like it. I don't like. I that's where the Karen. That's where that phrase Karen comes from. But the reality is, and the thing you can look at, this is statistics. You can't get away from facts, whether they make you feel better or not. Men actually are running things, doing all this stuff. But screw them, we should we should be able to run things. There wouldn't be any war if women were in control. I'll tell you half of it. The men that were going to war were going to protect their wives and their children and to make a better life for them. But we're seeing these things. We're seeing this stuff happen. If you did not know what MGTOW is, that's what it is. Men going their own way. Why are they deciding to do that? Because they feel like they're getting the raw end of the deal. Again, I said, I'm not saying I'm for or against any of these things. What I'm saying is, as a Christian man, as somebody that doesn't want to keep feeding into the destruction of society, we got to be good stewards. That's what we were talking about the other day. We've got to be good stewards. Being bad stewards was what brought this about on both sides. People mistreating each other, people not caring about one another, people taking up ideological arms against one another, like the trolls and the things. In 13 years, we actually got this guy Sheldon. In 13 years in the oil field, I've only worked with 4 or 5 women. Not many women want physical jobs. That's God's honest truth. The few chicks I knew well were excellent operators and worked hard, but there are not too many like exactly what I have seen. And Rita's saying it was done by design. Yes, exactly. It was done by design. They got to destabilize the families. You destabilize the family to where they're no longer dependent on the fathers, and the family as a whole is no longer depending on God. You will depend on the government, and the government will be daddy. The government will be big brother. The government will be God. And these are the things that they done by design because they knew they couldn't break up strong families. They knew they couldn't do what they wanted to do with strong fathers and strong men and strong women. So they had to screw us all up with a bunch of ideology, and that's the only way they could take control and get control. See, what you're dealing with is a bunch of power mongers. A lot of people call me a fear monger because I'm a prepper, because I'm telling you to get yourself prepared for the ensuing chaos that's going to be caused by these people. They're ungodly. They promote ungodliness. They want to destroy everything that is of God. They want to destroy the family, the first form of government that God instituted. They know the only way they can get control is if they make us so appalling to God, we no longer put ourselves in His favor. Got an update wanting to take place right now during the middle of this podcast. The 60s feminism push was because government wanted more people working, paying more taxes. Exactly. I'm going to send you an invite, Sheldon, and let you come up if you're willing to. Where you at? Am I not seeing you? Man, when you try to do a live on TikTok, you got to go through a buttload of stuff. Let me see here. Sheldon, are you not able to go on no lives or accept an invite? I was going to bring you up and let you have a little bit of a say. What's sad in this day and age, we actually have to have a month focused on men's mental health because things have got to that point where men's mental health is being just it seems to be the focus of the enemy. It seems to be the focus of the devil to try and destroy us and tear us down. And that was the thing I kind of wanted to touch on today. What are the key talking points? What are the key things that men are facing, that men are dealing with? What are the key elements that you should be kind of looking at to understand what is happening in the male community of the world right now? And that was one thing I wanted to bring up. If you're a minister or if you're a Bible believing Christian, these are the people I'm talking to in a lot of cases. If you're just a regular person and you don't know what MGTOW is, look it up, study it. These men are basically, this is a result of how these men have been treated, and they go this direction. This new Drizzle Drizzle movement, I'm not part of it. I mean, some of it's funny the way they go on, but it's not good for society as a whole in the long run. It's just a result of what they've done. Now, what has been done to them, this is what they're going to do back. These are the things you need to look at. These are the things you need to understand as, an average citizen, average everyday person that wants a good, healthy society. You look at what these are direct results of. These are direct results of these actions taken during Me Too, feminism, um, this growing divorce movement in the U.S., this growing war on marriage in the U.S., this growing war against men when it comes to separation and divorce. It just seems like we're going to have to pay for everything no matter what. I mean, I've literally got buddies, they done everything right, and one bad decision destroyed their life. Not by them either, One bad decision by the woman destroyed their whole marriage. It destroyed their whole life. They're living paycheck to paycheck, and they only get like maybe 20% of that paycheck, and they don't ever get to see their children either. They just done away with lifetime alimony in Florida, and you had women that were literally getting on there, women that could go work jobs, and they were talking about how they needed that alimony, yada 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 yada. And I'm saying, I'm like, supposedly live in a modern society where women can work. I mean, my wife works; she works 2 jobs. She's got her own business, and these women are saying they need alimony. And Matthew S. says feminism is an injection into society by Marxism to destroy society for overlords to take control of society. And that's exactly right. That's what that's true. Rita says this happened to her brother. I'm not telling you about stuff I hadn't seen. I've seen this happen. I'm not saying all women are bad. I'm not one of them people. I'm not, anti-woman. I'm saying this modern society we live in is not made for it's not made for the good of men. And it's really not made for the good of women either, because when women are in these situations, they're not living to their full potential. They can have all the education in the world, they can be making all the money in the world, and they can end up lonely and afraid at the end of their life, feeling like they missed out on a family. There's a growing number of women. You'll see the videos pop up where they realize now they wish they would have settled down because they're past their childbearing years. They haven't found that person to settle down with. The options are few and far between. They even made a show about this, and I don't even know if it's still going, but it blew my mind. They'd actually admit to it. But and it was by FX, so they always kind of get those weird things. But that thing, the unicorn, that show, the unicorn, go look this up. The premise of that show is this guy, his wife died. He was a widower, and he went for like a year. He didn't go see nobody. He'd work and come home. Him and his daughters. He just had all these casseroles from all the friends, and that's what they ate. And they finally run out of casseroles, and it's like he comes out into the world, and like he begins to, they convince him to enter into the dating world, and and it's like the first woman he goes on a date with is like she's in her 40s, he's in his 40s, because he's got two young daughters that are teenagers, so he's in that age, and she's like talking about how hard it is in the dating world at that age, being a single career woman. She's talking about how some men don't even show up. She's talking about how she tells him how she would just basically take him home. She offers to take him home. And these are the real things happening, because she's just showing the desperation of trying to find a good man at that age, being single after all that time and effort she put into being the modern woman they tell her she needs to be, and she ain't happy. Because I meet a lot of women that talk about they want to be stay-at-home moms. They want to have the families. And you're seeing a lot of young women now that they're coming out and they're protesting against it because they have a voice on social. Queen Mom shared the live. Thank you, Queen Mom, for sharing the live. Now, my wife will tell you. Her, my cousin Joe, they were talking about it at church. Whoever it was that said women should have to work. Well, last I mentioned it earlier. We wish we could. We wish we could give them a piece of our mind. My wife would love to be a stay-at-home mom, but the thing we keep coming to, it takes two to be able to run a family working. I make what used to be a decent wage, and she makes a decent wage as well. And we don't have no $200,000 home we're paying for. We don't have brand new vehicles. We got some decent vehicles, but our biggest bill right now because of inflation is food. My wife couldn't stay home right now if she wanted to because of the cost of living. And a lot of people are finding themselves in that situation. A lot of men and women are finding themselves in that situation, wanting to have that traditional marriage. I mean, women like it. You see tons of women leaving corporate office jobs to go with their husbands to start homesteads. Millennial women are doing this in droves. Gen Z women are college educated Gen Z women are foregoing, they're foregoing these careers to go live in vans with their husbands and boyfriends to drive cross country and not work conventional jobs. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of those, when I got into doing the survival content, and we talked about OnlyFans earlier, how I began to my other interactions with them. Again, I've never went and viewed OnlyFans content. It was them talking and making comments on my content. Why? Because they were at a homestead or it was van life. They were into prepping, they were into traditional stuff, and that's how they were making their money because they didn't want to go into that. They didn't want to go into the corporations. They didn't want to work the jobs. They wanted to make a lot of money. That was the best way to make a lot of money to help their husbands support their families. I mean, I'm talking about these were married women doing these OnlyFans jobs. Tater has invaded the studio and jumped up on the desk. Tater will not be ignored. Will you, Tater? Tater won't be ignored. Pretty little cat. Friendly little cat. But that's when I began to meet these people. And again, a lot of them are just regular women and they seen an opportunity to make a lot of money and they took it. Why? Because times are hard. They're sick of working and they do it. I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying I support it. I'm saying that is the way it is. And men, again, 90% of the people who are consuming this are married men. I'd say a lot of them are dissatisfied because why? Because their wife are not able to focus on them because there's so much going on with work and the kids and their career and college or whatever it is. Starting to get into the wiring. So that kind of wraps up this podcast today. It'll be on Facebook for a little while to kind of educate people because, again, when I'm talking to people, when you're talking to boomers especially, um, they don't even know this exists. This world exists. See, online, the online world is really what it is. The whole, digital town square is a real thing. Um, a lot of them do not want to be a part of it. They don't want to know nothing about computers. They don't. When you mention these things, it's like they can't fathom that these things exist. They can't fathom. They don't understand online dating and how a lot of young men are just using it for hookup culture. And then you have women that are using it hoping to find a husband because traditional dating doesn't really work anymore because where they're at, all the men are already married. Um, and they're the single women there, so they're turning to internet dating, and they're getting kind of screwed over by the men that they're going out with because these men are just going out, to use that woman. But then you see the reverse with some of these young men that are deciding to not have a part of it. These women literally have their names in their phone as food, free food, and won't even talk to the guy. They just go out with him so they'll buy them dinner. I mean, there tons of documentation. Again, tons of video documentation of these things happening. And so these young men are exiting the dating world because it's too painful. It's not what they want. They're not getting the results. So and there's too much liability, so they are leaving it. And again, there are these people in my area, especially, because I live in some areas kind of backwoods. You can got people that are my age that don't even they don't use a computer a lot and they use a cell phone. So they still watch a lot of YouTube. But yeah, they don't even realize these things exist. And it does. And it's tearing at the literal fabric of our societies. It's weakening it. Some of it I think is by design. Your kids are not just seeing these trends influencers on TikTok for no reason at all. There's some entity that's pushing that, um, and and there are literally a lot of different people that are nipping at America's way of life because they plan on replacing us. They want this country to collapse. They want the infrastructure to collapse. So to get that to happen, you've got to attack the people that run it. You've got to degrade that infrastructure. You've got to sow crazy ideologies that are going to tear those families apart, that are going to tear those people down, that are going to tear those men down. I think men's health is a very important thing. Why? Well, we just told you the statistics that we told you about the statistics that tell you that men predominantly run basically everything that runs society. And if their mental health ain't on par, you're going to start seeing what we're seeing today. I mean, you're going to see stuff like Bowen over there. You're going to see defects because them men are not able to function properly, not functioning properly in their mind, or the people over them don't know what they're doing or don't care what they're doing, and they're trying to destroy that for a bottom line. They're trying to get by with a bottom line. They're destroying that product. Again, it all goes back to bad stewardship, and we talked about that Sunday. bad stewardship. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do. It's kind of, again, it's like a pendulum. There were men that beat their wives. There were men that treated their wives like children and spanked them. There were men that did not consider what their wives were telling them in the relationship. There were men that treated women like secondary citizens and slaves. And so then you had feminism. Well, then feminism didn't have nothing to do no more after they got their rights, and then they had to find things to be mad about. So then the bad stewardship started there, and now you have MGTOW and Drizzle Drizzle, OnlyFans. 90% of married men, 90% of the consumers of OnlyFans being married men and seeing that as an okay thing to do. And it's going to go back the other direction, that direction, and it all goes back to people not being the stewards that God called them to be in their lives. Again, we're going to have that posted. It's on Facebook. You'll be able to watch it. I think we had around close to 400 views on it. When we talked about some of these similar things, we're talking about this now on this live stream. If you came in to the live stream, we are glad you were here. Go check our sponsors out if you want to support this. If you want to help me to, I guess, have better scripts, I don't seem to scatterbrain when I do these. Go buy some Ready Wise. Go buy some Pack Fresh. Go buy some Blackbeard fire starters. Go check out Odin Wolf knives, and hey, go check out Olight, our TikTok showcase. Go buy that gear. Right now, we got a canning, a water bath canning book that's really just making waves. People, it's a water bath canning recipe book. Go check it out. Go hit that up. We got a lot of good things in our TikTok showcase. Go check them out and help support this because I don't do it for free, and if you don't like the ads, well, I'm sorry. That's what keeps this as a, you know, something I like. That's what keeps me doing this. So if you don't want to buy it, you don't got to. But I do put that out there. Go check these guys out. And if you want to, you can. Tuck Tech Kayaks, go check them out. We got links, we got discount codes, Sunjack, the Sunjack lanterns they sent us. We got a link for them, discount codes, 10% discount codes for everything. They're on the website. Look at the link in the bio. Go to edge29cast.com. We got our daily newsletter you can sign up for. Just bring you daily news. We do the Chaos Tales occasionally, just basically science fiction based stories, dystopian and apocalyptic type stories. So go check those out. And y'all have a good one. We're going to end the podcast here. Thanks for coming in. Have a good one. See you next time.